If you've ever tried to build a new habit, chances are you've failed. A lot. And you probably convinced yourself that it's because you're too lazy, undisciplined, or unmotivated.
I can't do anything about it. I can't.
But the truth is, it's not you. We're all terrible at change. But when you understand the mechanics behind why you keep failing, you can find the solutions to finally break the cycle. This video is sponsored by Squarespace, but more on them in a minute. To get to the bottom of why your habits never stick, I sat down with Katie Milkman. She's a behavioral change expert, professor at the University of Pennsylvania, and the author of How to Change. Why is it so difficult to make changes in our lives if it's so important? You would think that we would be wired to actually make change more effectively, but it seems to be the most difficult and most frustrating thing for people to do.
The environment in which we evolved rewarded really different behaviors than the one we're in now, right? The long-term consequences of our decisions are very significant, right? If you smoke, if you eat the wrong foods, if you don't save enough for retirement, it's really quite downstream that you're going to face the consequences. And that kind of downstream consequence probably wasn't even something that our ancestors had to look forward to. Most of their life expectancies were so vastly shorter than what we're seeing today.
Thinking about the long tail effects of our actions is actually a rather modern predicament. Our prehistoric ancestors didn't worry much about the future. Back then, our priorities were pretty much restricted to finding a mate, looking for food, and trying not to get eaten. Our brains are wired to prioritize immediate rewards, not to delay gratification in the pursuit of long-term goals. And in a world where we're constantly surrounded by bright, shiny temptations, trying to fight against that biology can feel like an uphill battle.
Now you know how I feel sitting next to those M&Ms all day.
Well, why don't you just move the M&Ms?
Well, why don't you shut up?
So does that mean that we should just throw our hands up and accept the fact that our caveman brains will never allow us to change? Not so fast. According to Katie, instead of fighting against this urge to prefer instant gratification, what Katie calls our present bias, we can actually use it to our advantage.
If we are always going to reach for the instantly gratifying option, whether that's the TV remote, the ice cream, or the pizza, whatever the thing is, instead of saying like, I'm gonna work against it, how can we lean into it and use that wiring to our advantage? So when we pursue our goals in ways that are fun, rather than ways that feel more efficient, we actually persist longer, and we're more likely to succeed.
Katie first discovered this principle back when she was a graduate student at Harvard. Since the new Harry Potter audiobooks had just come out, she made a promise to herself to only listen to them while on the treadmill.
And if you do that, all of a sudden what you may find is what I found when I started doing this as a graduate student struggling to motivate myself to exercise. I looked forward to my workouts at the end of a long day. I craved going to the gym because I couldn't wait to find out what would happen to my favorite characters. And I started doing research showing, hey, actually it's not just me. We've proven in random assignment experiments that teaching people how to temptation bundle so that they link something they really look forward to with exercise, it gets people coming back to the gym more and more and looking forward to it.
And this strategy doesn't just work for exercise. If you get really intentional with the behaviors you want to stick and how to follow through with them, you can find some really powerful ways to make your habits more rewarding in the present moment. You can tell yourself, I will only listen to my favorite podcast while doing household chores. I will only drink my favorite pour-over coffee while I'm working. I will only reward myself with my favorite pastry for putting in a Sunday study session. As counterintuitive as it sounds, when you stop focusing on the long-term benefits that you're seeking and start focusing on making the habit immediately enjoyable, you'll find that behavior change starts to get a little more effortless. One of the challenges we face today is the onslaught of misinformation and half-truths that are spread online. Part of Katie's work is to investigate our assumptions about behavior change and put them to the test. One of her most surprising findings has to do with consistency. So consistency is one of those things that's obviously really important whenever we're trying to tackle any big goal. What kind of consistency should we really be looking for?
Yeah, I love that question, and it gives me an opportunity to talk about one of my favorite research studies I've ever done, and one of the most surprising things I have ever found. I teamed up with Jon Barden, who's a professor at Harvard Business School, and Google to do a project where we were going to randomly assign 2,500 Googlers, that's what they call their employees, to different experimental conditions to try to help them build a lasting exercise habit.
They asked the employees for their preferred time of day to exercise and split them into two experimental groups. The first group was rewarded with small monetary payments if they attended the gym within a 2-hour window of their nominated time. The second group was also given rewards, but they were encouraged to be more flexible about the times that they went to the gym.
And we compare these two groups, and we see who builds the more lasting habit. And interestingly, it's actually the group with more variability in their visits, not the consistent group. So this is surprising, right? You'd think like, okay, but it seems like consistency is good. That breeds habit. What's going on? When we dig into the data, what we see is that the people who built real consistency in their routines ended up being really rigid. So if they miss their ideal workouts, they don't come at all. They become sort of 9 a.m. gym rats or bust. And the people who train in a more variable way end up being more flexible. But if they miss their 9 a.m., they still come. And so as a result, in total, they go to the gym more. They have a backup plan. So it turns out consistency breeds rigidity is what we really found in this study.
This finding just flies in the face of our basic assumptions about consistency and routine. We think that if we want to build a habit, we need to show up every single day. But our lives are way messier than that. The only thing that we can expect from our days is that they will rarely go according to plan. We might wake up feeling exhausted after taking care of the kids all night. We might get a flat tire on our way to work. We might have our day get derailed by the world's longest meeting. Yes, no, I'm here, I'm listening. Of course, yeah, come on guys, you think I would fall asleep in the middle of a phone call? That's not me, you know that, Jim. So how can you harness this insight to stick your habits long enough for them to become automatic? Katie suggests that we need to aim for frequent and flexible.
It's good to have a first best time, but also you need to practice coming at a second best time and trying at a third best time. So if you want to meditate or you want to exercise or you want to practice a new language, not only do you want to try to build a routine around when do I usually do this and try to stick to it, but you want some variability in the timing of it in order to build a flexible habit.
So about a decade ago, I started making content online and I started building websites with Squarespace, and they also happen to be my sponsor for this week's video. The first thing I noticed when I started using Squarespace was how easy they made it for me to bring my ideas to life. Let me show you what I mean. Say you want to start a website to share your journey from couch potato to habit hero. You start off by going to squarespace.com to purchase your new internet home. Let's get my together.com. Edgy and provocative. What's not to love? Next, you browse through dozens of beautifully designed templates to find the one that feels right for your business. This one's great. And then the fun part. With a few clicks, you can add images, start a blog, and share your journey week to week. And as you push through your failures and stack up your successes, you can even help others reach their goals. Maybe even generate revenue by selling digital products, online coaching, or merch through your own Squarespace store. With Squarespace, you can scale your business with detailed analytics, scheduled posts, and so much more. It's never been easier to build a website to share your progress with the world. Visit squarespace.com today for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/MattDiavella to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. When you support Squarespace by using the link down in the description below this video, you're also supporting this channel, so if you want to build a website, check them out. Behavior change is really freaking hard. Even with the best intentions, you have a very high chance of falling on your face. So most of us just cross our fingers and hope for the best. We jump into our New Year's resolutions or habit change journey equipped with nothing more than a desire to change and our favorite inspirational quotes. But according to Katie, that could be a big problem.
I think the number one mistake, and this one drives me crazy, and it's sort of like the centerpiece of the book that I wrote in the end, is not thinking carefully about what the obstacles are going to be in this context to success. We often think, okay, I know it's gonna be hard to change this behavior. You know, I know that I'm not saving sufficiently, or I know I'm not exercising enough, whatever it is. You know that you have challenges, and so you can't just sort of wing it and say, I'm gonna do it. But people don't think deeply about what's the right strategy for me.
While it's admirable to take those first gutsy steps towards change, if you wanna actually succeed, it's important to rethink your typical approach. Instead of trying to wing it, you should come up with a plan for how to get to the finish line. And that really starts with identifying the unique obstacles that are most likely to get in your way.
And if the barriers you anticipate to success are, I hate doing it, it's miserable, and that's why I keep putting it off, that's gonna require a whole different set of tools than if it's, God, I always forget, it's so frustrating. Like I like doing it, but I just can't prioritize and get it top of mind at the moment when I need to take action. Totally different barriers to change. And so what are the most common barriers? And then you wanna tailor the solutions you try to use, and it can be a combination, to what is facing you. And so most people don't take the time to do that diagnosis and look for the right suite of tools to use for them. So if you're at a point in your life where you're looking to make a change, you might begin by asking yourself a few questions. What's gotten in my way before? Why do I think I've failed to build or break habits? And third, what can I do differently this time around? And just remember, it's not a you problem.
All of us struggle with change, and as cliche as it sounds, the key difference between the people who succeed in the long run and those who fail is their ability to shake off the losses and begin again. So if people want to learn more about your work, where should we send them?
I think the best place is my website, which is just katiemilkman.com.
Well, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot for having me. This was really fun.
Before you go, make sure you head down to the comments to let me know what you're working on and maybe how you plan to attack it differently this time around. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.